Hey there, broken salespeople. Welcome to the workshop. My name is Red Staffstrom, and we are here to help you fix your broken sales skills. So today is another interview, and I'm speaking with Steve Super, the CEO of Compassionate Credit Repair. Like always, I didn't ask a ton of details before he hopped on. I'm learning all of these things as you guys are. So bear with me if I make a few mistakes, because that's what this is all about, making the mistakes and learning from them. So Steve, why don't you introduce yourself, tell me what you're doing, and let's figure everything out for you.
Sure. Okay. Well, my name is Steve Super. As you probably gathered by now, I don't have a typical American accent. So came originally from England 25 years ago. US citizen, proud to be a US citizen. I love this country. This is my country. So may have the British accent, but proud American. Anyway, to cut a long story short, let me give you a couple of minutes back chat into how the company was formed and what my background is, because the two run parallel. So my background since I came to this country is I have started a number of financial organizations, companies, and built them up from scratch, where I've recruited huge sales forces and really built out companies from the ground up. And that's what I've done consistently throughout my career. Being in the finance industry, as you can imagine, around about circa 2008, things went belly up. And in fact, I went from being, to cut a long story short, I had 8 houses in Southern California, 3 beautiful cars, 2 black credit cards. Life was wonderful. Money was coming out my ears. That was 2007. And by the end of 2008, as a result of the mortgage disaster, I became homeless. So I went from being very wealthy to extremely poor in a very quick period of time. And I ended up living on the streets. Unfortunately, because I'm from England, I didn't have a support crew around me, no one to help me. It was just down to me. So I figured that I don't want to spend the rest of my life on the streets. I need to get off there, resume my career, and get back on track. And the best way of doing that was really to look at my credit, something that I've avoided all of my life. I use the synopsis that if lots of money's coming in, then hey, why worry about credit scores or anything like that, because money will always be there. I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but it's happened to me a couple of times. It's that the earth lulls us into a false sense of security. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I spent close to 9.5 months being homeless. And in those 9.5 months, every day I was at Starbucks. The one thing I had was a laptop. So I go to Starbucks and I studied credit. I figured that was the best option for me. Now, when I started my journey fixing my credit was at 402. But you didn't even know credit goes that low.
I worked in the car business. Yes, I do.
Oh, yeah, okay, you know. Okay. 10 months later, it was 728. So obviously working out how to build your credit, restore your credit, maintain your credit, these all became critical items in my life. And as I moved forward, I still carried on building other financial companies, but now my main company does credit repair. And that's basically the story.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack, and that's that's one of 2 homeless to business owner CEO stories I really know of. When you say homeless, how, because that kind of becomes a spectrum. Were you in your car? Were you in homeless shelters, full-blown refrigerator box?
I was in my car. You'll love the irony of this. By the way, my car, and this is why people laugh when I say I was homeless, it was a Mercedes. I was homeless in a Mercedes.
Yeah.
What people didn't know is that Mercedes was 9 months behind in a payment. So I had Mercedes looking to get the car back, obviously.
Yes.
And then I truly would have been homeless. So that was the difference between me absolute homeless.
So you were homeless, like, and somebody was looking, like, basically on the run from somebody trying to take the only roof you had.
You got it. But my clothes and everything was in my car. As you can imagine, the car was filled up to here with stuff.
And it's weird, like, when I walk by them and I think people are hoarders, and like every so often I'm like, no, that's probably what they have to do, and they're just at Stop and Shop or the grocery store to,
you're right,
because that's the only way they could get food that day.
But just to go back a little bit, I didn't, as I said, I didn't have any friends, I didn't have anyone I could rely on. And it's funny because while I was doing well, I was like the most generous person in the world. Mm-hmm. And of course, when things go badly and you think that people are going to reciprocate, they don't. They just don't care. And I literally became invisible. Yeah. So the biggest thing that I learned is if you ask a homeless person, and I do not speak for every homeless person, but if you asked me when I was homeless, what is the thing that I need most? It isn't money, it isn't food, it's actually a shower, somewhere that you can clean yourself. And I know that sounds weird.
No, that sounds like perfectly, because you don't have running water in a Mercedes. You have a lot of other things, but...
Got it. Every morning, I used to have a laugh with people. I used to have a shower in Starbucks.
Yeah. Yeah, with the sink, it's like a mini sponge bath. You lock the door and... No.
So anyway, that's the story behind the company. And obviously, since I'm no longer homeless, thank God, my goal has been to treat people with a lot more compassion and caring.
Because that's not something people who are down on their luck ever get.
You got it. And one of the things I say that makes our company different is that you can come to us with a bad credit score. We will never prejudge you. Everybody goes through difficult times. And I'm the exact example of it. So therefore, you get the name Compassionate Credit Repair.
And especially nowadays when you have things like anxiety and depression, and my wife is one who likes to resort to retail therapy every so often. But that is literally her trying to keep a grip on her mental health.
No, that's so fun.
It's a problem. It's no different than alcoholism, though. It's just a coping mechanism. And you can't judge people for forming coping mechanisms when their life is falling apart.
You're absolutely right. And actually, it's funny because our YouTube channel that we're building is going to have quite a bit of stuff on mental health. My wife, funnily enough, you talked about your wife. My wife has 7 autoimmune diseases.
Really?
Running through her body. And she is a helper guide, if you like. She has a huge YouTube channel where she talks to the chronically ill and talks to them about coping mechanisms, ironically enough. Yeah. So we are also bringing that element into our company because it's not just about getting your credit score right. No. It's about facing whatever is going on around you. And believe me, there's chaos at the moment. This is the most frightening time. Certainly, I mean, I'm a lot older than you, but in my generation, I can't remember a time as frightening as we're currently.
No, and so I was born in the mid-'80s, but I grew up, my friends liked punk music and thinking about all the anarchy movements and all of that. And no, that was children playing with Legos.
That's true. That's actually true.
Like Thatcher compared to some of the people out in the world today. I'm not a fan of Thatcher, not to get into politics, but...
Yeah, but I'll tell you something about that. So I don't know if you know this. Do you know Johnny Rotten's been married for for 50 years? Yeah. Is it Johnny Rotten? Yeah. The lead singer of the Sex Pistols. Is it Johnny Rotten? Or
Johnny Rotten, yeah.
Yeah, okay. He's been married for 50 years. How conventional can you be? It's a bit frightening, isn't it?
Yeah, it makes you feel old too, doesn't it? Like I remember going to my grandparents' 50th anniversary and be like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing. But hey, anyway. So that's basically the story of the company.
And I love that you're taking the priority as mental health on this. Yes, because too many people think of money as the goal. And it's not.
No, it's not.
A good credit score is not the goal. The goal is to not be awake at 3:00 in the morning stressing about your bills.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah,
absolutely right.
And that's the message that you have to get to people. And that's a tough message to.
It is.
Money is easy to explain. People understand numbers. They don't it's more difficult to explain feelings.
It is, but also as well, and I say this a lot. I came from England, and this country beats England in every single respect except for one thing. And I think you'll probably like what I'm about to say. Here, you can run out of money. You can actually run out of money. And nobody's giving you money.
Mm-hmm.
You can be homeless and you can be in serious trouble. If you're in that situation and you get physically sick, let's not beat about the bush. You can die in this country.
Very much
so. You know, whereas you talk about the American dream, and that's very much what I came over for, people actually said to me 25 years ago, if it goes well, it's great, but it could go horribly wrong. The one thing in England is, because obviously it's more of a socialist country,
mm-hmm.
is the poor get housing, they get benefits, the free medical aid. You know, there's just more of an awareness than there is in this country.
Yeah. And if they do see somebody homeless, and it's still something I fight against myself, is the negative stereotypes that we as a culture push into homeless people and poor people. And, oh, they're just lazy. No, I know poor people who work 3 jobs.
Yeah, no, that's
not a lack of character that makes you poor.
Not at all. But interestingly enough, and we can talk about the psychology behind it, I believe a lot of that is down to the education we get when we're kids.
Absolutely.
You know, and the difference between rich people and poor people is not money, it's information and education. We don't get education at school to help us financially. Nothing.
No, nothing. But I know what a rhombus is.
There you go. See?
I know the Pythagorean theorem.
There you
go. How many times that's pulled me out of the fire? I mean, if I
But that's true. It's a true comment.
But yeah, no, there was no... I didn't learn to cook in school. I didn't learn any basic survival skill that you need. Balance a checkbook. I know what a hyperbolic curve is. I didn't know how to balance a checkbook.
And, you know, it's funny because part of what I want to do going forward in the next year is I really want to get involved in child education and college education and maybe give talks and speeches and, you know, help people out that way.
I'm actually going to send you a name. Her name is Kade, Kade. And she does that exact same thing. She does it in Long Island.
Wow, I'd love to talk to her.
I spoke with her last week, and we're going to wind up doing some podcasts together. I'll send you her information. I'm hoping to have her on the show very soon, and I'm planning on working with her too. But Kade Abelard. But she works and does that exact kind of thing, like teaching high school kids life skills, finance skills, entrepreneurial skills.
Right.
I mean, that's something that I think you guys could relate very well to.
Absolutely. I'd love to talk to her.
Again, she does it on the other side of the country, but that's nowadays that doesn't matter anymore.
No, it doesn't. Absolutely.
But I'm in the same boat because that's something I eventually want to do too. And I was so happy I connected with her.
Right.
Because eventually I want to teach, because nobody taught me any of this. And it's not even about the education to me. It's about people not self-educating at a certain point.
That's true.
You know?
Well, it's my father. I remember growing up, and I love my father, but he was a very, very smart guy, intellectually smart, but terrible at business. Absolutely terrible at business. And I can't tell you the amount of companies he formed that went bankrupt, and we were, you know, moving from house to house to avoid it. So the thing is that intelligence is very different from knowledge of how the system works and how to beat the system.
And it's not even knowledge for knowledge's sake. I know people who are super, super smart. But if you know too much, it becomes paralyzing.
There you go. You're right.
That's the biggest issue I see primarily across the country is the smartest people I know are trying to do everything at once. They're trying to put everything in place all at one time. And if like that's something that I've seen, like people who are doing every social media channel at once. Why not learn one and move forward?
That's me.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about your social media for a second then. That's a good pivot point.
Okay. So first of all, let's talk about the issues that I face. Credit repair, as you probably know, or maybe you don't, is a very, very competitive industry.
Mm-hmm.
So to stand out in it is pretty tough.
Mm-hmm.
The way that I do it, or the way that I've done it so far, which I feel maybe not as potent as it could be, is exactly what you say. We use LinkedIn, we use Facebook, we have a Facebook group and a Facebook page. We use, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and what's the other one? I think that's about
YouTube.
YouTube.
Yeah, Insta.
Right. YouTube video.
You're not on TikTok yet, I figured.
No, but we're looking at TikTok for business.
Okay. So let's kind of backtrack off that, because credit repair is such a competitive field.
Yeah.
Let's start with your ideal customer avatar. Who do you want to work with?
Well, there are two. Again, this is where it gets kind of confusing. There are actually two components to it, because I do credit repair for individuals and I also do business credit.
Okay.
So that's two different types of profile.
Yes.
The business profile, the business credit profile, is somebody probably who started their own business, small business, and probably wants to get funding, doesn't have too good a credit score, and wants to learn about business credit so you can fund your company without using your personal credit score.
Okay.
So that is our ideal target as far as business credit is concerned. As far as personal credit, this is interesting. So the biggest user of our services, not our services, but the industry services, are females between the ages of 30 and 45.
Actually, that kind of makes sense.
Really? I was amazed when I did the background work to that.
So it's kind of the way, and I wouldn't have assumed it until I knew my wife and her shopping struggle. Like, I hate to say it, but it's easy to let your credit get out of hand $20 at a time.
Right.
It's tough to, like, okay, a $40,000 car, you notice that, but 20, like that to buy 1,000 cuts gets to be the issue. You notice the car land on your credit. You don't notice the accumulation.
Right.
You know, it's the boiling frog.
So if we talk about, now you're saying what you're saying, now let's talk about the marketing piece in general and what philosophy we have, or I have. So I think, and I'm not afraid to say this, I think that I've totally screwed up my marketing philosophy. Okay. And I'll tell you why. I think I've come at it at a wrong angle. I think the angle that I was trying to promote up until current day is, hey, your credit's in trouble, you need to fix it, because if you don't fix it, you're going to have problems, especially as COVID gets worse and the lockdown gets worse. That's kind of been the overall message. But I don't like that message. I don't like promoting from a negative standpoint. So moving forward from the start of the year, I'm going to change that message to be more inspirational, which is this. Your credit is 500 or whatever. Imagine it was at 700. Let's look at the different lifestyle you can live. Does that make sense? So it's
yes, it does. So appeal to hope, it is opposed, because all people are moving away from pain.
There you go. You got it. So instead of saying to people, hey, you've been a naughty boy, I'm going to slap your hand, your credit's bad. It's like, hey, don't put your head in the sand, because you can have so much more of a different life if you improved your credit.
Okay. So I might even tweak that even further from a marketing standpoint. So you're kind of handling it assuming their credit's bad.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
From a compassionate standpoint, you have to diagnose it first.
Yes, that's true.
they may assume their credit's bad, but I had, and knowing this from the ground level, because I sold cars for a few years.
Okay.
My credit is great. It's at 550.
Right.
I've heard that phrase multiple times.
There's a couple of fives in there. So yeah, hey, go for it. Really?
Yeah, I have heard people like, or like, oh, like thinking like, oh, it's out of 500, right? No, it's not at all. The problem that you face is kind of twofold. One, like we talked about, education.
Right.
Most people don't understand how painful a bad credit score can be.
Right.
And I know because as a car salesman, I sold people cars with a 19% interest rate.
Yep. Interesting. Okay.
You know, and I know what that can do because I've seen it to family and friends.
Right.
They may not see that as a problem. They're just happy they got the car.
Right. You're right.
So they don't understand how damaging what.
And it's
Have you ever read Selling by Neil Rackham?
Yeah. Yeah, I know it's been selling. Actually, I can see it from where I'm sat. I can see a copy of it. Yes.
Okay. So what you're doing is the first two steps: situation, problem.
Right.
We need to talk about the implications and then the need payoffs. So with your marketing strategy, you've got right now you're doing implication questions.
Yeah.
January, you're planning on going need payoff questions.
Right.
You need both.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I think we need to tweak it when you have a little bit of, if they're moving away from pain and towards pleasure, we have to address that. We have to address the entire journey.
Well, just so you know, if we talk about our process, you see an advert for compassionate credit repair and you call us. The first thing obviously I do is I want to have some idea of your background, where your issues may or may not be. But if you called us, I would not commit to taking you on as a client.
Good.
Because this is what we do. The next step is the potential client signs up for credit monitoring, which has nothing to do with us, ironically. But what it does do is it gives us access to their credit report.
No.
So once we get the credit report, we get them on the phone in a Zoom meeting, and we do a complete audit and a breakdown of their credit report. Because showing people your credit report is just a waste of time. They don't know how it works, what's going on. So we simplify the whole process. It takes us about 24 hours to do it. And then I talk to the client. Now, ironically, and I wish I had a copy of this in front of me, ironically, when it talks about, when I do one of the emails, the welcoming emails, it talks about the difference between buying a Honda with a 540 credit score and a 702. So if you take it over 5 years, it works out the 502 will be paying something like $14,000 more in interest over the term of the loan.
Yeah.
And once they see that, then they begin to understand it.
But we need to get them to start understanding the biggest problem you have with coaching in general is that people are not willing to change until they hit rock bottom.
That's true.
That's the biggest problem every coaching company faces is without that rock bottom, without that, okay, everything needs to change immediately. They won't make a move, even to do the initial phone call with you.
Okay, sorry, I hate to interrupt. I know it's really bad, and I want to hear more from you than from me, but I just want to add one more component that will give you a better understanding. So there are two methods in which I acquire customers. The first method is the method we just outlined through social media, etc. But the other method is affiliates.
Good.
So I work very hard with affiliates, like, funnily enough, like car salesmen.
That's when I was wanting to make sure you have those close relationships.
Absolutely. And that's the point. Hey, you know what? And you know who else, funnily enough, really like me is there's a couple of Harley Davidson dealerships around here that love me to death.
Yeah.
You know, that basically clients that come in, they want the Harley, the FICO doesn't fit, they give them to me, bing, bang, boom, they get them back. So I just wanted to add that bit, by the way.
So that is, I always believe you need a couple of lines in the water. And that was something I did want to talk to you about as soon as you said that you came here with no sphere of influence.
Sorry.
Yeah, no. I wanted to, but I'm glad you're doing it because now I don't really need to talk about it.
Okay.
That's not, if you're doing that well, the only thing I would want to make sure that you have is a system and a process to stay in front of them on a regular basis. How often are you reaching out to these, say, dealerships?
Not often enough, to be honest
Okay.
with you. I'm doing more of a and this is where I'm a little bit naive. I'm doing like a one-stop visit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm visiting so many dealerships that by the time I'm visiting them all, I don't get back to the ones I've already visited. And you're right, I need to tighten that up a lot.
So 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
Boil it down to the 20% that you think would make the most difference for you. Find the ones that have the most foot traffic. If you need to sit in a parking lot across the street and count cars on a Saturday afternoon, do it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I like that.
But you need to know who has the most turnover and who's moving the most metal.
And unfortunately, COVID is kind of putting a bit of a blinker on all of this at the moment.
Absolutely. And companies like Carvana and all of that too. Yeah. But I don't think it's ever, at least in the near future, that's not going to go away.
Right.
It's the easiest sale for you to make is when they're told no for something that they really want.
Yeah.
So that is something you need to do, and you could start working on in the very short term. And that, I think, is the first, literally spend a day, like plan it out, and you count cars each hour. Like you go to a different dealership or half hour. How many cars pulled in and left?
It's a great idea.
And just watch.
Now, just out of curiosity, what are because I don't know this and I've never worked in the car industry, what are do they have generically busy days?
Saturday is the busiest.
Saturday.
By far, Saturday is the busiest day. When I was working, it kind of trickled throughout the day. Like the afternoon wound up being a little slower. Like it was, but you could literally take 3 Saturdays.
I got you.
You get a list of 10 places.
I like it.
You go for a half hour each.
I like it.
And you count.
I like it.
Yeah, you go, and that's just your 3 days of market research.
Right.
And you go a half hour, like you go 1 through 10, then you do 10 through 1 the next Saturday. That way you can get rid of it. And then you kind of scramble them the 3rd Saturday.
No, I like it. I like it. It's a great idea. Thank you. I definitely.
Then when you see the 3 that wind up getting, and honestly, you'll notice the dealerships, the top ones get a lot more traffic.
Wow.
We were a mid-range dealership. We sold about 150 cars a month. We had competitors who did over 500.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's new and used. Used cars are typically the ones you're going to need to do. Then what you do is you show up every month with coffee.
Yeah.
You learn everybody's coffee order and you show up 1 o'clock in the afternoon with Starbucks.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. I like it.
But you need to focus 80-20 rule. What's the 20% of them rather than stop in, hey, I could help your customers. And then they never see you again.
I got you.
That's zero cost to you.
I like that. Yeah, no, I like that very much. That's a great idea.
Then you could do something even further. Once you get a really good relationship, what you can do is actually post up there on a Saturday.
Right, I got you. That would be great. That would be wonderful.
Because they're going to have people who just don't get through.
Okay, so can I just give you another add-on? I know I'm in a million different places, which is why speaking to you is good because you bring me down to earth. Mm-hmm. But carrying on the affiliate strategy and carrying on about what I was saying about how I'm going to change come the new year, let's take this a step further with both car dealers and realtors. Mm-hmm. So let me give you an example of a realtor I'm working with. So when I say I have them as affiliates, it's not just a case of saying, hey, if you get a client who wants a house and they don't have the right FICO, send them to me. That's the obvious. Mm-hmm. But I approach it from a slightly different angle. I said to a couple of realtors, look, let's work out a strategy together in tandem mm-hmm. where we can market what are the rules to buying a house. What's the average cost? What are you going to need? Where's your credit going to be? Let's do this together. And the few realtors I've approached really love that concept.
So that's the field I'm working in now is real estate coaching.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yes. So that is something, provided you have the right value behind it. And the same thing we talked about, you have to find the people who do the most deals. Go on Zillow, find people who get the most volumes, and primarily work with buyers.
Yeah.
If they work with listings, they're no good to you.
Yeah, I got that. Yeah, it's buyers. That's true. That's a very good point. Okay. In Southern California, though, it's slightly different, which is where I am. I'm in LA, because the area that I live, the average house value here is just under $1 million.
Yep.
So, but there are outlining areas such as like I'm working with a realtor from Diamond Bar. His average house is 350,000. That's where I need to be, not the $1 million market, but the 350.
I actually disagree with you on that.
Really?
$1 million people don't know how to manage their money either.
Yeah, that's true.
I know plenty of I know doctors who have gone bankrupt.
Yeah, no, I know. That's true. That's a great point.
The idea for you is volume more than anything else. Volume, and they have to be buyer heavy. If you look for anybody who has a team, because the way most agents structure their team is they're the listing agent, and then they hire 2 or 3 agents underneath them as buyer's agents.
Okay. Where do you live, by the way?
I live out of Connecticut.
Okay, because we have a spare bedroom here, and you and your wife can come and live here, and we'll do this together, brother. But that's great. No, you're on the ball. Love it. Love it. You're right.
So make sure, or you start looking to people who are Zillow Premier advertisers. Do it soon, because Zillow is going to change in the near future.
So Zillow Premier.
Yeah, the Zillow Premier agents, they pay Zillow for buyer leads effectively.
Oh, really?
Yes.
And those will be my best guys, you think?
That's going to be, and the people you see the most often, those are the ones that are probably overloaded with buyers.
Right, got you.
If they're overloaded with buyers, that means they probably talk to a bunch of people who aren't qualified yet.
Right. And that's exactly my thought. See, if you remember, I told you the story of what happened in 2008 to me. So obviously, because I'm in finance and I follow the housing market very keenly, my belief, and it's just my belief, I could be wrong, I believe we're heading for another collapse. I really do. It's well overdue. It's usually a 7-year turnaround, which they call Shemitah in the technical terms. It's just my belief. Okay. So if I'm right, what a great opportunity this is. Think about it, because now what I'm saying to people is, hey, if you want to buy a house, don't buy it just yet. Mm-hmm. Let's work out a plan over 5 or 6 months to get your credit right, your money right, everything else right. And then you can buy a house at the bottom of value if the market does go down.
My thing is, and I'm a little bit more boots on the ground.
Okay, go for it.
So I understand where you see that housing is ready to collapse, because I see a lot of the bubble indicators in terms of price going up and up and up and up and up, just like it did before the 2008-2009 crash. I like one of my favorite, Michael Lewis, Big Short. I love that book. I'm assuming you've read that one as well.
Have you seen the movie?
I love the film, but the book goes so much more into detail. I love the movie too.
Yes, exactly right. They bet it against the market. Yeah,
yes.
Great.
But the issue is, all bubbles and all markets function based on supply and demand. Mm. So you've heard buyer's market, seller's market in real estate all the time.
Sure.
There's kind of a tipping point, and it's 6 months of inventory. So if it's below 6 months of inventory, so let's say your area, they sell 150 homes a month on average.
Right.
If there are only 450 homes on the market, you have 3 months of inventory.
Right, got you.
If there's 900, then you have 6, and so on and so forth.
That's an interesting measurement. Okay, yes. That makes sense.
6 months is kind of the tipping point that I always say. So if we have over 6 months, it's a buyer's market. Under 6 months, it's a seller's market.
Okay.
Right now, nationwide, we have about a month and a half in most markets.
Wow.
Gee. Yes. So this is not a bubble. This is a function of having zero inventory.
It's interesting. Well, probably because people are indecisive. They don't know what to do. Is now the time to sell? Or will I get the best price? Yeah, I'm guessing. The only thing is that if you add to that the Federal Reserve, and they can't stay at this interest rate for much
no,
longer.
They cannot stay at this interest rate.
Yeah.
I've been calling for them to raise interest rates pretty much since like 2012, 2013.
Right.
We can't keep having this free money out there, but it's still a function of the supply demand in housing.
That's true.
Will other things be hurt? Absolutely. But housing, I don't see it. I agree with the 7 year. There's like the recessions every 7 years.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to happen from housing.
Well, usually the indicators financially are, if we are headed for a recession, the first two things to go are the commercial marketplace.
Well, commercial real estate is different. Yes, commercial real estate, first, I agree.
Then normal houses, individual.
Yeah. So commercial real estate, I definitely agree with right now. Honestly, I'd probably wait 3-4 months and then start buying. But only if you have a hold strategy for 4 or 5 years.
Right. And that's where the credit education comes in. And that's why I can rope in high-level realtors to join in the marketing of this particular topic.
Exactly.
So as you can see, I'm trying to build it up to more like an aspirational, this could be your dream if you fix your credit, rather than you're a bad person for having bad credit.
No, then that's not the right way to go anyway.
Right.
Because people shut down at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you need to, you have to give them the battlefield. You have to tell them what everything looks like. But if you start insulting them, and it's not going to work that way.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. But there again, see, here's the thing. I don't know if you know this, but 700 credit, say 720, gives you access to it gave me access to, when I had it, and now I'm higher than 720, about $130,000 of credit at 0% interest.
Really?
Yeah, that's why. See, it's amazing the way people don't even know this.
No.
Believe me, I didn't even have to apply for credit cards. People were calling me. Once you hit that level, it's a different world.
Absolutely. And I've seen that.
Right. It absolutely is different. And also, I mean, there are travel bonuses. My wife always, when my wife talks to female clients, she'll always tell them how Costco can pay for credit repair. And they don't.
Costco is also, just for a side note, Costco is one of the best places to go if you're looking to buy a new car.
That's interesting.
They have a lot of deals with.
You know what? I never even thought of that.
Yeah, not only travel deals, but new cars, they do a lot too. And I know this because I sold cars and I got started cussing like a mad sailor as soon as somebody came in with a Costco printout.
Wow.
Because I would make no money on those.
Yeah, that's interesting. How do you think it'd be possible to get hold of Costco and talk to them about it?
For you, I don't want you aiming that big yet. Okay. There are plenty of boots on, simple things to do. I love how ambitious you are, but we need to dial down the scope, if anything, right now.
And that's my problem. I'm thinking you're right. I'm thinking in a million different directions
and that's common. That's almost every entrepreneur I talk to.
Really?
Yeah.
It is common?
Very, very common.
Like that, at least.
Very, very common. Most entrepreneurs, if you're familiar with the DISC profiles.
Yeah.
High D, high I.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Those are the ones. So it's task, go, 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 go. And then they're good at talking with people.
Right. Yeah.
If you don't have a task, you create a task for yourself.
I like that.
Rather than slowing down to think about things.
Right. Exactly.
You're working harder, not smarter.
But when you get to the point where you've got so many good ideas and they're all floating in the air.
That's the discipline.
Right. And then it's a question of reining them all in and strategizing which way to move forward with the best concept. And that's exactly where I am now.
The best companies out there say no to good ideas. The best companies out there say no to great ideas.
Interesting.
That's where you have to get.
Right.
Apple could make 15 different kinds of iPhone. They don't.
Yeah, that's true.
They could have laptops in every size, every color, like across the board.
Right.
They have MacBook, they have iPhone, they have iPad.
Do you know who's a good example of that? Sorry to interrupt you, but
yeah, go for it.
If you talk about the best example, did you have In-N-Out over there?
Oh, we don't, but I know In-N-Out.
But
I had
In-N-Out
it in Vegas
is an
before.
absolute
Yes.
example of exactly what you're talking about. They do a burger and a double, and that's it. You don't get
to think even McDonald's.
Right.
You don't need to make the best burger.
That's
McDonald's burgers are gross to me. And I'm not saying it because that's fatty, it's disgusting. True. No, it just doesn't have the flavor.
But it's the marketing and the concept of I've got to have a McDonald's.
Well, what McDonald's sells is consistency. It's not a burger, it's consistency.
That's another great film, by the way, if you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, the Founder.
Love it. Love it.
That with that was a really good one too.
With Batman, yeah.
But
so you think consistency is really the key to the marketing message? Yeah,
and that's right now you're trying to do so much at once. You're making it impossible for yourself to be consistent.
Thank you. How well you know me. Yes, exactly right.
I've done so in my real estate coaching job. What I do is I talk to realtors day in, day out. I did 60 different Zoom calls last month alone with real estate agents.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So this is the kind of thing I do, but it's just real estate focused. I take apart the companies, I rebuild them.
Cool.
So it's just a slight different turn, but it's just what I've learned to do. I'm very lucky in that I'm a very technical, hands-on person.
Yeah, you are lucky.
I spend all my time, the battery's dead, but I'm in my workshop. I take things apart. I put them back together. Right. I've taken the transmission and put a new transmission in my truck last year. I've built 2-bedroom apartments. I've redone roofs. I've done anything with a hammer or a wrench. I've pretty much done it. Once you understand how things fit together, it gets so much easier.
Yeah, I can imagine.
The problem is you're looking at the whole car. You're not looking at the water pump.
That's true. You're right. So let's look at another version. Let's look at another part of the car.
Okay, so social media.
Okay. So here's the thing. At the end of the day, social media to me, I don't care what it is. I just use it to generate leads. That's Absolutely. It. That's the goal. Mm-hmm. Generate leads. Physical people that I can talk to. So I'm having been a CEO and I'm an old dude and having dealt with, I'm a people person. So, I can sell a deal if I'm talking to a person or whatever. How strong am I technically? I know my way around every kind of social media, but when it comes to marketing expertise, I'm an idiot. I know nothing about nothing. Mm-hmm. So I'm faced with 3 different options. And this is where, if you ask me my biggest struggle, this is what they are. Okay. So my game plan is to generate leads. And there are a couple of ways in which I can do that. Number 1, run a paid ad on Facebook or LinkedIn that leads to a landing page. Landing page will then get them to fill in the name and blah, 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 and it'll give me the lead. Okay, yes. Option 1. Option number 2, which for a while caught my fancy, and I'd still like to do this, although I'm not sure, is I'm a big believer in automation. I think automation makes life wonderful. I also believe that you can make money while you're sleeping, and automation helps you do this. So one of the things I've thought about is advertising for people to attend a webinar. The webinar would run throughout the day. I wouldn't have to be there. It would be pre-recorded. Same thing. Landing page, funnels, blah, 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 blah. Yes. And the third option, which we are using, is organic traffic, obviously. We've got our own literature and ads and things that we paste as well. So I'm struggling as to which way is the most effective for us. And bear in mind, because I'm naive, I am like the prey to millions of wolves on the internet, as you can imagine. Everybody wants to build me a funnel. Everybody wants to work for me for free until I need to, you know how it goes.
Yes.
And the problem is, you know what they say, the easiest person to sell to is a salesperson. And I'm that sucker. I'm the sucker that listens to it and goes, wow, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'll buy that. And I'll buy that. And I'll buy that. And at the end of the day, it's all been a waste. So I just don't know. It's just the biggest issue I have as an entrepreneur is being indecisive. That's my biggest issue. I'm second guessing myself and I'm not sure which way is the best way to move forward, to be quite frank with you, in terms of marketing.
Okay. So you're looking at the whole car again when you're thinking of funnels and automation.
Sorry, Matt. Yeah, that's a great point. You're right.
Okay. Yeah. You do automation is the goal.
Right.
It's not something you do day one.
Okay. Got you.
Your goal day one has to be traffic.
Right.
Once you have traffic, then you can start like tweaking things, but you have to break it down from traffic to funnel to conversion.
Okay, sorry to interrupt, but it's an important question. So you mentioned the word traffic. Traffic to where? To the website? To my where are we talking about?
Just you can do something with any of them.
Right. Okay.
The idea is to get eyeballs.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You're in a lot of different directions right now with Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Find one and devote yourself to it. Okay, so we mentioned like Facebook group, Facebook individual page, Instagram, YouTube. That's 4. If you cut it down to 1, that's 25%. We talked about the 80-20 rule. That's pretty much right there.
The only thing is, sorry, again, I don't, it's terrible to interrupt you in your flow.
No.
Just so you know, we use Hootsuite. Do you know what Hootsuite? Okay.
I've heard of them. I haven't used them myself.
Okay. That's why we're on so many different media. So we'll make a video or we'll make a post or whatever, put it in Hootsuite and it populates every single, there you go. I just mentioned Hootsuite. Hey, I want an affiliate fee, Hootsuite.
So that works really well, but focus on one of them.
Okay.
Still.
So who would you recommend? Which one would you start?
If your target is females 35 to 45, Instagram.
Instagram, really?
Instagram is probably 25 to 35 is probably the demographic I would put in.
Wow.
But Instagram is much more, you think of the influencers.
Right.
There are more Instagram influencers than there are on Facebook. So the people who are on Instagram are actively selling these women coffee scrubs.
I got you.
And they're ruining their credit $20 a time.
But isn't there and forgive me again, I might be naive, isn't there a link between Facebook and Instagram? In other words,
there is. Like Facebook owns Instagram, a lot of the stories, but usually people have their preferred platform.
Got you.
There are very few people who they sit down at a doctor's waiting room and they scroll through both. You can't scroll through both simultaneously. They go to one more regularly.
So you would start with this. That's interesting.
I would do, yes, because Instagram is the most product focused. And because it's product focused, again, your consumers have bought that, again, coffee scrub.
Got you.
And they get sold the same way you do, just not for B2B products. They get sold for direct consumer stuff.
Right. Okay.
If you figure that out, you start getting the traffic, you start getting the followers. Once you have X number of eyeballs every day, now you start figuring out the landing page. You figure out the next step. Okay, the landing page, how well is it converting? And you figure that out until you optimize it as best you can.
Right.
And you give yourself, say, a week to figure out the landing page.
Okay, got you.
Then you do the webinars. I
So you
love
like,
webinars
you
to
like the
sell.
ideas of webinars?
I do like the idea of webinars, but you're going to have to do them yourself over and over and over again first.
Okay. And that's no problem because, you know, as I said, having built a number of companies and I've trained a lot of people, you know, and kind of maybe not as good as you, but Zoom is no problem to me or doing a presentation. But I get it. You're right.
The one that I've used for webinars that I think has worked really well, I haven't done them for automated webinars, was a Webinar Jam.
Webinar Jam.
Yes. I've used that before because you can put the pop-ups up at the same time and people can like jump in. Like on Zoom, you don't have that, especially if you have a bunch of people on Zoom.
Oh, interesting.
So Webinar Jam is one I like, but you want to do it 2 or 3 times a day for at least a week.
Right.
Or like 2 or 3 times, like over and over and over and over again.
So you got the rhythm and the feeling. I get it. I get it.
Well, no, what you do is you check percentages.
Oh, right.
Which ones convert? What are the 3 speeches that got the best?
Okay, got you.
They're probably going to be towards the tail end. You'll start figuring out what works really well.
Right.
Then you take the 3 that you did that were really good, and then you tested those against each other.
Interesting. Yeah, that's great.
But that's how you figure out that one step at a time. Step 1, traffic. Step 2, landing page, conversion page. Step 3, webinar.
Sorry, I'm taking notes while you're talking.
That's, yeah.
Okay.
But you're going, so let's say you're doing the ads for the webinar. Let's say you do 2 webinars a week.
Right.
That's probably a good pace because you're going to want some time to promote it and get the traffic to join on.
Okay.
You do those 2 webinars, just mini models. Like you don't want to spend a ton of money to start these, but you want to try it and see what works and what converts people, what sells.
Right, got you.
Then you scale it up with more money. Then you scale it up. But I'm talking $50 promotion-ish.
What's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on outsourcing in general, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm a big fan of it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. As I tell real estate agents this all the time, you get to pick the headache you want.
Right. That's true. That's
you don't get to live without them. You get to pick them.
No, I agree with that.
One headache has the opportunity to go away. If you outsource and they're completely there to do your job, then you don't have to worry about it. All you have to do is sign the check.
So let me ask you again, given my situation, I'm not you're far further down the technology path, but given my situation.
Well, just to correct you on that, I've only been on Facebook 2 years.
Really?
I am not that much farther down the technology. Everything I've learned about technology has been less than 2 years.
Wow.
Yes.
Really?
I'm a blue collar guy.
Wow.
I am not like a swami of tech. I understand the marketing principles behind them. I understand the broad strokes behind it, but I'm not going to tell you I have 10,000 Instagram followers. Granted, I just started my Instagram 2 months ago, but.
Right. So the question arises when these people approach you and say, hey, I can build funnels for you. I can automate all this. And I've had multiple offers and some have accepted and they have turned out terribly. How would you decipher which way to go along that route?
You don't yet. You do it the old fashioned way first. You find out what works for you and for your customers first.
Right.
They can offer some insight and say, okay, well, I've seen this work better. I've seen that work better.
Right.
But you need to know something that works first. Otherwise, you can't have an intelligent conversation. Otherwise, they're just selling you something that, oh, everything's going to be magical. No, you need to know how the sausage is made first.
Right. And that's true. And I listen, I'm no different to a lot of people. You know, you start a company, you want it to be successful on day one. You want to make $10 million on day one. One of the things I have to learn is patience. And that can kill me if I don't learn it quickly.
Well, again, that's the high DI personalities. It's common, very, very common.
How do you get that skill in particular?
What do you mean? Like the idea of like, which skill are you talking about?
I'm talking about the skill of just sort of calming down and saying, don't look at the entire car. look at the engine or look at the steering wheel, and then let's work on that and work our way outwards.
By messing a lot of things up.
That's true.
Quite frankly, like by trying to fix everything at once and it going to shit.
Yeah, no, that's very true. That is
that's also, I'm in a unique position as a salesperson. I'm a full-blown introvert.
Okay. Yeah.
I know it's like a lot of people don't believe me when I say that because
I get it. I'm similar. Yeah. I get it.
But I'm able to turn off and think for hours on end.
Wow.
Yeah. Like I can, I'll go for a drive and think for 90 minutes.
Wow.
Like I'll start listening to an audiobook. I wind up pausing it and talk to myself for a half hour, turn it back on till another.
It's a great skill.
Yeah. But that's what I'm able to do. That's Kyle Kinane, if you know, I don't know if you follow comedy at all.
No.
So he explains comedy as it's like, yeah, this is just a personality quirk that I'm trying to make some money off of. That's all he said. It's like, hey, that was a great joke you told at the party the other night. That's great. Give me $20. Like that's what stand-up comedy is.
Right.
I am an isolated introvert, naturally speaking.
Right.
So this is nothing more than me leveraging that personality quirk.
It's interesting. That's very interesting. But I as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I go to parties and I don't talk at all. I'm not a people person, but if I need to use those skills, I do have them in my arm. But I'm not necessarily a people person in all honesty.
So, but the thing with introverts, it's not that you're not a people person. Everybody is a people person. Everybody needs that social interaction. They've proven that in almost every psychological study there is. The question is, everybody needs a certain volume of social interaction.
Right.
Extroverts like a puddle. Introverts like a well. Much fewer conversations, but much deeper.
Right.
Conversations like this.
I get it. No, absolutely.
An extrovert can walk around the party and just shake hands and kiss babies all day. I can't.
You're right.
If me and you were talking about, well, what's the weather in Southern California like? Yeah, it's 76 and sunny the way it always is. Shut up.
Now you sound like my mother in England. That's the first question she asked. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
How'd you like the game last night?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I don't love sports. I love sports, but I don't want to talk about it for a half hour. I want sports to turn off.
I know. I get it. It's a bit like the how you doing thing. When I first came over to this country and someone said, how you doing? It freaked me out. Because in England, you would never talk to someone you don't know and say, how you doing?
It's just this call and response. We might as well have a string on our back.
Yeah, there you go. That's exactly the same.
If you legitimately ask, how are you doing to anyone other than your wife? If you ask your wife, how are you doing? You'll get an answer, typically speaking.
Yeah, but you're right. I'm doing fine. I'm doing great. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Some people just it up all in one piece.
Because if you truly gave an answer to that, nobody would be bothered listening to the answer. They'd have marched off. They'd have moved on with their lives.
That's a good thing, a funny thing to do is next time somebody asks you, you just lay down on the couch. It's like, I guess it all starts when I was 13.
That's funny, man. That's really funny.
But you can't legitimately, to the point where I think that's part of the reason, back to the mental health, we have so many issues in this country.
Right.
Because we don't know how to legitimately answer that question because nobody's asked it to us authentically before.
Right. That's true. That's very true.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the sort of society we're in. I mean, I just, it's funny you talk about Instagram because who was it? I can't remember. One of the, and we're at fault for this. We are the home of the Kardashians, so,
you bastard.
We own up. So I was just reading an article the other day about Kourtney Kardashian, who says,
my sympathies.
Yeah,
don't subject yourself to that.
But she said that wearing a face mask during COVID can give you cancer. This is what she said. I'm just telling you what she said.
Okay.
And the article said, Kourtney Kardashian, who has over 10 million Instagram followers. I'm thinking, what does she do? I don't get it. But this is the world we live in.
There's people who are just professionally famous.
Right, yeah.
That's all they are, is they're just professionally famous.
But sadly, this is the world that we live in. Now, if you were to tell me that a famous surgeon or a doctor or a preacher or somebody who developed the world at 10 million followers, that I can get behind.
Yeah, but
But that's the field that we're battling in at the moment.
Well, but back to like on the sales front, you have to understand it. People are not rational; they are emotional.
That's true. That's true.
We put on this guise that we're logical, but I did a podcast not long ago. I explained all like the way the brain works, and I explained it as a burrito because that's the analogy that makes the most sense. In the middle of our brain is the limbic system. Now that's what covers emotions. It covers memories. It covers that's where our amygdala is, where all the adrenal responses, like our panic, like reflective, it's all in the middle.
Wow.
Chaos. Beans, meat, cheese, all that craziness, all that mess.
Yeah, I got you.
The outside of the brain, like the prefrontal cortex, the parietal lobe, the occipital lobe, these cover logic, mathematics, language, and vision, and like responses, like tactile responses.
Tactile responses.
So our brain is literally wrapped in logic. The problem is the brainstem goes right into the middle of the burrito. So every action we take, and it's the right way to do it from an evolutionary perspective. If you're afraid of the tiger, you need to run. You don't need to think what's the Latin name for that tiger? Left foot, right foot, repeat.
Beautifully put. You're absolutely right.
But in our modern world, it's backfiring on us because we are emotional and at the expense of the logical.
That's true. That is very
so true. Because they like Kourtney Kardashian, they're willing to forego the logic because that prefrontal cortex, that occipital lobe, never enters the equation.
You're right. That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
You're right. And if Kourtney Kardashian said she's pooping, I don't know, gold, then people would believe her because they like Kourtney Kardashian. You're right. That's exactly correct.
For me, I'll never understand it.
Is that because she's branded so well? Do you feel? It's the brand. It's the Kardashian brand. Yes. Yeah.
But the idea is, hey, you could be like us. You just, we're just normal people. No, you're not. It's something that it feels accessible, but it isn't quite. I don't get it. But see, my emotional security blanket is that I'm a logical person.
Right.
I try to take as much pride in that. So when I fight against it, it's...
But you see now, so let me give you an example of what we're talking about. So there's a woman who, I say she's a woman, actually, she's a fairly young girl, about 26. She has her own YouTube channel doing makeup and credit repair, which of course is naturally goes, you're looking puzzled. You think there's just one of them? Well, there are thousands of them. But here's the thing. So I watched one of her videos where she broke down a certain aspect of credit repair. And it was a 10-minute video. And I have to tell you, for 10 minutes, she spoke the biggest pile of crap and dung I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
This woman has 440,000 followers. And what scared me is not so much it's a big number, how many people are listening to her and taking her advice? Because seriously, she gave such bad advice. You could go into bankruptcy if you follow what she says.
Well, I think what we learned here is that you need to learn how to put on some eyeshadow.
Yeah, but are we talking about, now here's another thing. Are we talking about getting the popular vote, or are we talking about getting the educational vote, the right person, or do I want to be Mr. Popular?
No, you don't. I don't believe in growing. I'm not a fan of growing massive, massive businesses. I want a business that excites me.
Right. I got you.
I want something that has an emotional meaning, that has a purpose behind it.
I got you.
If I don't feel like I'm helping people anymore, I don't want it to be this massive unorthodox thing anymore. Like, I'd rather have something a little more close knit.
Interesting.
It's just a personal philosophy.
You know who follows that philosophy? Tony Robbins.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Robbins only has about 6 people working for him. Do you know that?
Yeah.
He turns over millions and millions of dollars. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I get it. I totally get what you're saying.
But I want my business to consist of diehard followers. I'm not concerned with numbers.
Interesting. Okay.
I'd rather have 10 people listen to this podcast and love 10 people than 100 people who they're subscribed, but they don't listen to it.
That's awesome. Somebody said if you're starting a business or growing a business, the first thing you should do is go on your Facebook page and get rid of everybody on it and start all over again.
Well, that's Russell Brunson suggests that. Start all over again with your Dream 100. Those are the only people you see. You go on social media for 15 minutes a day. You comment, you try to connect with them, and that's it.
What do you think of that? That as a like it or not?
I could go both ways on that. It's more about a personal choice. Some people like social media because it helps them recharge. Extroverts especially. It's almost a mental health tool for them because they're able to stay connected to people in their lives.
Interesting.
Especially in times like today when, they can't go see their parents because their parents are at risk.
Right.
Your wife, who has the autoimmune disorders, she's been locked down completely.
Yeah.
She may have had a very close relationship with a niece, let's say, who can't come see her.
That's true. And so social media is a good outlet. Yeah, that's
it can be when used the right way.
Right, I get you.
I don't.
So should your personal and the next question, should your personal profile have aspects of your business in it, or should they be completely separate?
So I know you need both.
Okay, good.
The acronym I learned when I was doing sales. So because I'm not good at small talk, I learned techniques to make small talk.
Wow.
Yes, that's how much of a nerd I was. I actually looked into it. The technique that I've learned that I've come to love, it's an acronym called FORDS, FORDS.
Okay.
Family and friends, occupation, recreation, dreams, school, and sports.
Clever. And if you tell me that's what you sold as a car salesman, that would be a perfect circle.
Well, no, I did Nissans for whatever reason, but it's just where I landed. But when I did that, and I did it because of car sales, because I'd be on a 20-minute drive with them, and there's only so much you could talk about the car.
Yeah, I couldn't do that.
Or we'd have to sit down and we're waiting for the manager to come back with numbers, and we'd have to just. It's either I sit there in silence or I come up with something. But that's the acronym that I've always stuck by for when I have to make small talk. Family, friends, occupation, recreation, dreams, school, and sports.
Interesting.
Occupation is 20%.
Huh. Interesting.
You notice that?
Yeah.
You notice that number keeps showing up over and over and over again?
Yeah, I did. The 80-20.
So you need to have a personal, an attractive, the attractive character that Russell Brunson labeled.
Interesting.
So, and the way you do that is you talk about your wife. You talk about how she's helping people with mental health struggles, with physical health struggles. You talk about what you guys are doing when you're locked into the house. You just set up a shuffleboard court in the hallway, whatever you did.
Right, I got you.
You talk about what you're trying to build, how you want to help people. You talk about the schools you went to, the sports you like you do all of that. And then you say, you know what? I also do credit repair.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Now, actually, again, this is a critical bit where I want your opinion. Let's talk about the YouTube channel for a minute. So I've only got a couple of videos in there. The first video told my story in full about how I became homeless and the credit repair. And then there's a couple of videos that actually talk about how to get collections off credit repair, just credit repair stuff. So I said to my wife last night, I want to rebrand that YouTube channel.
Okay.
And I want to rebrand it, calling it something like Your Perfect Life, Your Perfect Credit Score, or something like that, where I'm talking about exactly what I said at the beginning. Hey, you want to buy this dream house? Let's talk to a realtor. Let's see what you need. I mean, would you do that and mix that in with videos of my dog, say, or my
YouTube is a little bit different. You want to show personality, but it's more that one I see is more informational. It's not, that one's not quite a reality show. It's more of a talk show.
Okay, got you. Do
Do
you believe in YouTube to promote business?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I love YouTube. But to kind of talk about the funnel direction, again, YouTube winds up being closer to the end of the funnel.
Right.
These are people who are already interested. These are people, YouTube is just like the webinar.
Right, I got you. That's
interesting.
You have
to get them to that point first.
Right. And what I was trying to get to, and you talking about funnels and landing pages and stuff, is I just thought of the shortest point between two distances. Mm-hmm. So then I'm thinking, well, do I need funnels? Maybe I just need a freaking landing page or an ad. I don't know. And that's where it gets a bit confusing.
Mm-hmm. And for coaching, I mean, I don't know how much you charge for coaching, but it's tough to get people, especially in bad credit situations, to decide like, yeah, I need to spend $3,000.
Yeah, no, I'm not that expensive.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. No, I get it. You're right. I agree with you.
But to do a $50 courses, $100 courses, like to do it that way little bit.
I should have told you the cost is including credit monitoring, which by the way, we have no part of. By law, you've got to give it to a third party. So the total cost is $125 a month.
Okay.
But $25 of that goes to credit monitoring. So if you're asking how much do we charge $100 a month. Okay. And what we do is we remove and we educate, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what it is.
So at that point, that's not an expensive part of a funnel, but you may want things to start in terms of, like I said, free webinars, free PDFs, free, $25 initial consult. That's what you're going to have to charge for the initial credit report anyway, the credit monitoring anyway.
That's true. Actually, that's very true.
So it's a zero cost acquisition at that point for you.
That's very interesting. I didn't ever think it that way. See, when we started, and this is ironic as well, we started with free customers because I wanted to make sure that all the systems worked, and I wanted to improve people's credit, and they would act as our advertisements, when we'd actually done everything, blah blah blah. And actually, the free people proved to be the biggest nightmare I've ever had in my life. And as a salesman, as soon as you put the word free in there, it leads to freaking nightmares. It really does.
So, and that $25 is going to give you two different things. One, it's a low cost commitment, so it's a great entry point to the funnel to actually give you the opportunity to sell.
I like that. Yeah.
But two, first money is always harder to get than second money.
Interesting.
So if you decided that you're going to, I know now's not quite the same time, but you decide to go to the concert, but guess what? The seats 4 rows up are only $10 more.
Right, got you. That's good. Yeah, right. I got you. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Hey, you just bought a car. How about a $4,000 warranty?
Right. Yeah, got you. No, that's a great point. That is a great point.
But if you could get them comfortable, this toughest part of any sales transaction is collecting credit card information.
Yeah, you're right.
That's when it has to be the most seamless, because as soon as something there goes wrong, they don't trust you anymore.
I got you. You're right.
If you can show them and they make that cognitive step that they trust you, it's a lot easier to sell them coaching now. It's a much higher conversion rate.
I agree. So obviously, I mean, we've talked about so many things. We've covered so many areas.
Okay. So
let's break it down. What's the strategy moving forward? Give me the top.
So in the next month, you work on the affiliates. because
Okay.
those are going to be zero cost for you. You spend the Saturday and you start scoping out the dealerships that you think are going to be the best. And during the week, you find the realtors.
Ah, that's clever.
Yes.
Realtors during the week. Okay.
And on the weekend when there's the most, and you could also, like, some dealerships are open Sundays, you might be able to go Sundays.
The only thing is, and the car dealerships I've visited during the week.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that is that it's been easier to speak to the manager or the finance manager or whoever.
But now you're not trying to do that yet.
No, that's true.
Now you're trying to see what their traffic is like.
Right.
Because you're going to, it's basically a second shadow funnel behind what they're doing. You're trying to piggyback on their advertising dollars.
Got you. You're right.
And those are the people you want to start with, is the ones who advertise the heaviest.
How would I find that out? Any idea?
Okay, so car dealerships, what jingles do you know?
Keys, well, you don't have keys down there, but yeah, you're right. So
but those are the ones, the dealerships that spend the most money, like they were always on the radio.
Right, got you.
I get like some dealerships on like Pandora ads all the time. Go to the ones that are spending money on advertising.
That is interesting.
Yes, because if they're doing that, they have enough surplus money, because for whatever reason, people think like you can't spend marketing money until you get customers, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. You're right.
Yeah, but if you find the ones like around here, we have one like your bottom line is a county line, like those tag phrases that you know, if your car doesn't say Napoli on it, you paid too much.
Right. Okay. That's
like if you know those taglines, that's because they spent a ton of money advertising.
Right, I got you.
Doesn't have to be scientific.
Ah, interesting. I like that.
Saturday and Sundays for the next 2 or 3 weeks, you scope and you count and you tally mark.
Got you.
Then you narrow it down to 3 or 4. And now you're a fly on the wall once a week.
Right. Got you.
You show up with coffee and say, hey, okay, or you do 4 of them. Right. First Saturday of the month, second Saturday of the month, third Saturday of the month, fourth Saturday of the month.
Bring it right. I got it.
Those are ways you can do that, but you have to start deciding who knows your customers the best.
That's interesting.
Don't try every dealership. Focus on 4.
Interesting.
All right. Same thing with any other places. Offer to stay in if the Harley place gets a ton of traffic like that, do the Harley place.
Yeah, that's actually not a bad idea.
But you need to start tracking what the traffic is first. First step 1 is traffic.
Got you.
Then you start building those relationships. So that's got to be the objective for the next couple of weeks.
That's awesome.
Don't focus on internet. Do what you're doing now with internet. Don't change that yet. Okay. Yeah. Have you ever read The 4 Disciplines of Execution?
No.
Okay. I can't remember who did it. I know it's an Irish last name. It's Mick something, but I can't remember what the name is right now.
4 Disciplines of Execution.
Yep, 4 Disciplines of Execution. It's like John McGinnis. I think Sean Covey is involved too.
Oh, he is? Oh, wow.
Yeah. But it's multiple authors on it. You can only do one thing at a time.
Right.
Step 1 is work on your affiliate deals. Make sure that line is pulling up fish. After 2 or 3 months, that one should be, you should be almost on autopilot with that. Now you switch your attention back to social media. Now, step 1 is traffic. That's how we do things then, is you figure out the platform. Again, personally, I'd go Instagram.
Interesting.
Facebook just tends to skew older.
Yeah.
And if your target demographic 30 to 45-year-old females, that more aligns with Insta.
Interesting. That's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
How long did it take you to really get to navigate Instagram yourself? Because I got to be honest with you. I mean, I haven't really.
It's not my expertise right now. I'll be point blank and honest. It's not one that I'm like the back of my hand yet. It's the one I'm the most active on now in order to figure it out.
Okay, got you.
There's, if you know, Founder Magazine.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so Nathan Chan, I know it's Chan. I believe his first name is Nathan. He just did a webinar. He has his own webinar funnel for Instagram coaching.
Interesting.
He did a webinar I listened to on my way into work the other day.
Wow.
But there's lots of tools that you could start doing that. But I think we start with the old school.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
You know,
really
you don't need people all over the country sending you people. You need 4 or 5 good lead sources.
And it's interesting that you say that, because again, my strategy is we're in Southern California. I want to work outwards. So it makes sense to keep as local as I can. And then when I'm building up, I move out.
So think about it in terms of marketing costs. Well, let me ask this. Are you subject to the 15-mile rule with Facebook because you're a financial service?
No, what's the 15 mile? I didn't
Okay,
know.
so with loans, mortgages, real estate, Facebook last August put a rule in place where you can't advertise to an area smaller than a 15-mile radius.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's based on HUD rules. It says it's discriminatory.
Huh.
That's why I said go to Zillow soon with real estate agents, because Zillow is probably going to change in the near future.
Okay.
Because HUD ruled that like targeting specific zip codes could be seen kind of like redlining.
Right.
That it can be seen as like, hey, you're targeting only white people, only black people, only Asian people, whatever. So because of that, they said the smallest area you can target is a 15-mile radius.
Huh.
For you in LA, that probably consists of 10 million people.
Yeah, it does. It really does. Yeah.
Now, if it costs you from a marketing dollar perspective, a penny per engagement for 10 million people, you see where my head's going.
Yeah, I get it.
You have to niche down.
Right, I get it. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Focus on the areas that work the best for you.
Right, that makes sense.
Okay. I will say, don't be put off by the dollar value of real estate. People with bad credit live everywhere.
Yeah, no, that's true. You're absolutely right.
You know, they could have knocked on your door 2 months before you became homeless.
Yeah, that's true. That's 100% correct. You're right.
But you still want to figure out your people.
Yeah.
Try to narrow it down to say 30, 40,000.
Interesting.
Like that's the market you really want to be in control of.
Right. Niche marketing.
Yes. Then we could start building from there, but you need to get that down first. So what did you said, Brentwood, I want to say? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Brentwood.
Yeah.
That's where you focus. You become the credit king of Brentwood.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Totally.
And then you start building. Okay. Then you start bringing in little towns around there.
Right.
One at a time. Huh. But you can't do a nationwide marketing budget where you are now. It makes zero sense for you.
So I got it. Hey man, you've been awesome. You really have been awesome, honestly.
I'm glad I was able to help, like kind of point you towards a few things that I think sounds like I narrowed it down a little bit for you.
You narrowed down a lot, and you gave me some great ideas and some great focus. I really do appreciate that.
Absolutely. So if anybody is interested in credit repair, they want to reach out to you, they want to get something going. I know I talked about LA, but obviously you could help anybody in the US.
Oh yeah, we do. Yeah, we do the whole country.
Yeah.
Well, the website is www.compassionatecreditrepair.com, and our phone number is 888-720-3426. And if you forget the last bit, 3426, it actually stands for FICO. So our phone number is 888-720-FICO.
So I've always been curious about those. Just as a quick note, was it like you got the phone number and then you tried to make it spell something, or do you have to find
we went
extra service for that phone number?
Yeah, sorry. Sorry about that. The screen is a bit locked. No, I wanted FICO. So there were a couple of things we could have done. And I said to my wife, find out if that FICO was available. And it was. So that's how we got it. So we were lucky. We were lucky. We're the only ones using FICO in the phone number.
Yeah, because if anything, I'm moving away from phones, but that's just me. Because again, I'm an introvert and I don't want to do that.
Yeah, no, I get it. Believe me, I really do. But yeah, so it's 888-702-3426. And you can look out the website and go from there.
All right. But it was awesome having you on. Like, I loved this discussion, how in depth it was, that we kind of took care of your like squirrel wrangling a bit.
You did. You absolutely did.
Yeah.
We need to do this on a regular basis.
I want you to call me back with bigger problems.
Yeah. All right.
That's what I want you to do.
That will be my goal, believe me.
Yes. I want you to call me back with bigger problems.
I do. I get it.
So, but it was so great having you on. Once again, everybody, this has been the Broken Salespeople podcast. I'm with Steve Super. This is Red Staffstrom telling you guys to go out there and go fix yourself.